Hello, my dear students. In the last class, we have already discussed the colligative properties. We know colligative properties are the properties of dilute solution. It depends only on the number of solute particles. It does not depend on the nature of the solute particle. There are different types of colligative properties. These are lowering of vapor pressure, elevation of boiling point, depression of freezing point, and osmotic pressure. Today, we will discuss about osmotic pressure. In this session, we will discuss about osmosis, semi-permeable membrane, demonstration of osmosis, osmotic pressure, Van Hoff law, relationship between osmotic pressure and molecular mass, determination of molar mass of polymers, isotonic solution, and reverse osmosis. You have already learned about osmosis in the plus 2 classes. We know it is the spontaneous net movement of a solvent like water across a semi-permeable membrane from a less concentrated solution into a more concentrated one, thus equalizing the concentrations on each side of the membrane. This is a schematic diagram of osmosis. Here the solvent water moves from low sugar concentration side into high sugar concentration side across a semi-permeable membrane and thus equalizing the concentration on either side. Then what is the difference between diffusion and osmosis? Here both the two processes equalize the concentrations of the two solutions. In diffusion, solvent and solute particle move to equalize the concentration. But in the case of osmosis, only solvent particles move. Solute particles do not move. The second difference is that in the case of diffusion, no semi-permeable membrane involved. But in the case of osmosis, the movement is through a semi-permeable membrane. Then what do you mean by semi-permeable membrane? A semi-permeable membrane is a membrane that only allows movement of solvent particles but restrict movement of solute particle across the membrane. For example, egg membrane, pig's bladder. The cell surface membrane surrounding all cells of prokaryotes and eukaryotes are another example for semi-permeable membrane. We have seen a number of examples for natural semi-permeable membrane. Then how will you prepare an artificial semi-permeable membrane? Here the artificial semi-permeable membrane is prepared by depositing copper ferrocyanide, calcium phosphate, cellulose nitrate, etc. in the walls of a porous pot. The artificial semi-permeable membrane is prepared for measuring osmotic pressure in the laboratory. The phenomenon of osmosis can easily be demonstrated by thistle funnel experiment. Firstly, mouth of a thistle funnel is tied with the pig's bladder. We know pig's bladder is a natural semi-permeable membrane. Pour concentrated sugar solution in the thistle funnel and mark the level of solution. Place this in a beaker of water. After some time, water level in the funnel rises up steadily. The level of solution in the funnel gradually rises due to osmosis. This continues until the excess hydrostatic pressure developed in the solution is sufficient to stop osmosis. We have already seen that in the thistle funnel experiment, the level of a solution in the funnel gradually rises due to osmosis. This continues until the excess hydrostatic pressure developed in the solution is sufficient to stop osmosis. This excess pressure is called osmotic pressure of the solution. That is, osmotic pressure can be defined as the minimum pressure that must be applied to a solution to prevent the flow of solvent molecule into it through a semi-permeable membrane. We know it is a colligative property and is dependent on the concentration of solute particle in the solution and not on the nature of the solute particle. The laws of osmotic pressure are proposed by Van Hoff. These are very similar to the ideal gas laws. Firstly, Van Hoff's Boyle's law. It states that at constant temperature, the osmotic pressure of a gas is directly proportional to its concentration and inversely proportional to its volume. Here, pi represents the osmotic pressure of a solution. C, it is smaller concentration. Then at constant temperature, pi directly proportional to C. But we know C is equal to N by V, where N is the number of moles of solute dissolved in V liters. Therefore, pi directly proportional to N by V or pi directly proportional to 1 by V. Thus, Van Hoff-Boyle's law may be written as pi by C is equal to constant or pi V is equal to constant. The next, Van Hoff's-Charles law. It states that if the concentration remaining constant, the osmotic pressure of a dilute solution is directly proportional to absolute temperature of the solution. That is, pi directly proportional to temperature or pi by T is equal to constant. Here we have already learned about Van Hoff's Boyle's law and Van Hoff's Charles law. By Van Hoff's Boyle's law, at constant temperature, the osmotic pressure of a dilute solution is inversely proportional to volume of the solution. By Van Hoff's Charles law, the concentration remaining constant, the osmotic pressure of a dilute solution is directly proportional to absolute temperature of the solution. By combining Van Hoff-Boyle's law and Van Hoff-Charles law, we get pi directly proportional to T by V. That is, pi V is equal to Kt, where K is a proportionality constant called general solution constant. Van Hoff proved that this constant K is equal to universal gas constant R. Therefore, in the above equation, pi V is equal to Kt, the K may be replaced by R. Therefore, pi V is equal to RT for 1 mole. Or pi V is equal to nRT for n mole. Then pi is equal to nRT divided by V. We know n by V is equal to C, so pi is equal to CRT. Here the equation A and B represent Van Hoff general solution equation. Next we can discuss about the relationship between osmotic pressure and molecular mass of solute. Suppose you are given an unknown substance and then you are asked to determine the molecular weight of the substance. Then what are the experimental methods available for determining the molecular weight? One of the more precise technique involves the measurement of osmotic pressure. For this, suppose W gram of a non-volatile solute whose molar mass m is to be determined is dissolved in a suitable solvent to get V liters of dilute solution. Then number of moles of the solute N is equal to W by m. If pi is the osmotic pressure of the solution at T Kelvin, then according to Van Hoff osmotic pressure equation, pi V is equal to nRT. We have already known that N is equal to W by M. Substituting N is equal to W by M in the equation pi V is equal to nRT, we get pi V is equal to WRT by M, or M is equal to WRT by pi V. Thus, by measuring the osmotic pressure of a dilute solution of non-concentration at a definite temperature, the molecular mass M of the solute can be determined using Van Hoff's osmotic pressure equation. This method can be used for the determination of molecular mass of polymers like protein, RNA strand, polysaccharide, etc. Unlike other colligative properties, which are too small to be measurable for solutions of such macromolecules, osmotic pressures are measurable although small. Moreover, no strong membrane is necessary here, and one like cellophane can be used here because it does not permit these large polymer molecules to pass through. Now, how will you determine the molar mass of polymers? Suppose W gram of a protein of molecular mass M is present in V liters of solution at temperature T Kelvin. According to Van Hoff equation, pi V is equal to WRT by M. Then pi is equal to WRT by Vm. We know W by V is equal to C. Substituting this in the above equation, pi is equal to CRT by M, or pi by C equal to RT by M. However, the solutions of macromolecules show marked deviation from ideal behavior even at low concentration because of substantial intermolecular interaction. So, a series of osmotic pressure measurements are to be made at different concentrations, and this data extrapolated to infinite dilution to get the actual molecular mass. So, the equation becomes limit C tends to 0, pi by C is equal to RT by M. The figure represents a simple osmometer. It is commonly used to make osmotic pressure measurements of macromolecules. Here, the bottom part of a glass or stainless steel chamber is covered tightly with a cellophane membrane and placed on a perforated support. To the top part of this chamber, a calibrated capillary tube is fixed. The chamber is filled with the polymer solution and placed in a larger chamber containing the solvent maintained at constant temperature. Due to osmosis, the liquid rises in the tube until equilibrium is attained. From the rise in the level of the solution, it is denoted by the letter H. The osmotic pressure pi is calculated knowing the density of the solution. That is, pi is equal to HdG, where D is the density of the solution. The process is repeated for a series of concentrations. Then pi by C is plotted against C to get a nearly linear plot. Then it is extrapolated to C is equal to 0 to get the limiting value pi by C at 0. That is, pi by C at 0 is equal to RT by M, or molecular mass M is equal to RT by pi by C at 0. In this way, we can calculate the molecular mass of a polymer. An isotonic solution is one that has the same osmolarity or solute concentration as one another. If these two solutions are separated by a semi-permeable membrane, water will flow in equal parts out of each solution and into the other. The effect is zero water flow between the two solutions, although water is moving both ways. That is, two solutions having the same osmotic pressure at the same temperature across a semi-permeable membrane is referred to as an isotonic solution. A solution is isotonic when its effective molar concentration is the same as that of another solution. That is, this state provides the free movement of water across the membrane without changing the concentration of solutes on either side. For example, 0.1 molar urea and 0.1 molar glucose are isotonic solutions. What will happen when a pressure greater than its osmotic pressure is applied on a solution, kept separated from the pure solvent by means of a semi-permeable membrane? Do you know? Here, there occurs a flow of solvent molecules from the solution into the pure solvent through the semi-permeable membrane. This phenomenon is called reverse osmosis. This is used for the desalination of seawater to get potable water. In osmosis, solvent particles move from pure solvent side to concentrated solution. In the reverse osmosis, solvent particle moves from concentrated solution to pure solvent side. Then what are the differences between osmosis and reverse osmosis? Osmosis is the process by which the molecules of a solvent pass through the semi-permeable membrane from a region of lower concentration to a higher concentration. In the case of reverse osmosis, it is the process by which the molecules of a solvent pass through the semi-permeable membrane from a region of higher concentration to lower concentration when pressure greater than the osmotic pressure is applied. Osmosis is a natural process, whereas reverse osmosis is an artificial process. Osmosis occurs along the potential gradient, whereas reverse osmosis occurs against the potential gradient. Example for osmosis includes the opening of stomata and absorption of water from the soil by the roots. Reverse osmosis is used in water purification systems. The phenomenon of reverse osmosis is used for the desalination of seawater to get potable water. The process of removing saline impurities from water is called desalination. We know in many countries, like the Middle East countries, where fresh water is not abundant, desalination of seawater is carried out to get drinkable water. Saline water is kept separated from a pure sample of water by means of a strong semi-permeable membrane. A pressure just higher than its osmotic pressure is applied on the sample of saline water. Water then flows out of the saline water into the pure sample through the semi-permeable membrane. In the process of desalination, water is forced out of saline water, not dissolved. Here, very high pressures of the order of thousands of kilopascal have to be applied in this method. Membrane specially prepared from nylon, cellulose acetate, etc., which are able to withstand such high pressures are used. Fresh water obtained is suitable for drinking purposes. Today, we have learned about osmosis, reverse osmosis, and its applications. In the next session, we will discuss about electrochemistry. Thank you.